morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on your location. Welcome to our fourth Xray webinar. So we've been having this series of webinars, and thank you very much for spending some time with us today. So my name is João Mendonça. I know it's kind of a difficult name, and I'm the Expanded On Team business developer. Joining me today, I have Sergio Freire. Hi, Sergio.
Hi.
Sergio is our Xray's product manager, and he will be the one conducting the webinar today. In today's webinar, we will go over the main features of Xray, of course, one of the most used task management add-on for Jira, and we will include some of the features of the latest version, so the 2.0 version of Xray. If you want to check all the brand new features, you will have, of course, some in the future, some webinars just related to this 2.0 version. But before we dive into the tool, I would like to give you just some quick briefing about the Expanded On team. So for you to have an idea what is the team that is behind this Xray add-on. So we are making add-ons for already 4 years. We've been having some experience already. We are Portuguese, and we do have 3 offices at the moment, so in 2 different countries, 2 here in Portugal and 1 in the UK. Of course, we have at the moment more than 1,000 customers just for Xray, so it's been growing quite a lot in the last months, and we are in more than 60 countries, so customers in all over the world. We, of course, pay a lot of attention to the new features, so they are very important for us. And of course, the opinion of our customers, it really matters to us. And for example, this 2.0 version, it was a really good example of that. So we do listen to the opinions of our clients, so the feature requests, and we do select the ones that were making more sense for us in terms of timing, and we selected to build up this 2.0 version. So for us, it's really important to have your feedback, and of course, to have our clients' feedback, and of course, not just the new feature requests, but also the support. So we have more at the moment more than 500 support tickets opened and closed. So we have a lot of contacts with our clients in this kind of support. So and we are quite fast in terms of replying, and we do keep a lot of attention to that so as well. So you can have the best support as you can get. At the moment. So of course, because of that, we do have a lot of lines of code, and for sure the work is growing, and the lines of code will be even more in the future. So we do hope so, with more features, new features, and the upcoming releases that we will have in the future for sure. So about the 2 products, we are not just about Xray. We do have another add-on called Xporter. Xporter for Jira is an add-on that allows you to export all your Jira information, and for you to have it in several templates. So, for example, if you need some information to give up to some client or to some management that they don't have access to Jira, and they do need the information that you have there in some project or in some specific Jira issue, you can use Xporter to export that information to some, I don't know, it can be Excel template to a Word format or a PDF, and have it as documentation and give it to your client or to your management. So that's quite a handy add-on. That it kind of saves some of the situation that it's not very easy to be done in Jira. So yes, you can export some information, but you won't be able to build up some really nice customizable template out of it. So this is also some really important add-on for our situation currently in the expanded ons. But of course, the most important part of us, it's our clients, and that this is what makes us work hard every day, and to build up a even bigger add-on, and even bigger, more suitable for everybody. So with me, as I said, Sergio will be the one that will conduct the demo today. We will go over the main features of Xray, as I mentioned. Of course, we will try to have some part of this WebEx of this webinar to be for us to have some Q&A session, and you can ask some questions. Of course, we'll try to answer all of them. If you're not able to answer all of them here, we'll do it afterwards. Also note that this session is being recorded, so even if you have some colleague that were not able to join us today, you will be able to send this to him, or he will get for sure, if he was registered, you will get for sure an email with this information, with this recording. So, but I will pass now the ball to Sergio. I will present the agenda and also go on with the demonstration of this really nice add-on for Jira.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, thanks for attending our webinar. I really hope you enjoy it. The aim of this webinar is to give you an overview of the main features of Xray. We won't have time to explore all features in detail, but we'll get an idea of what Xray allows you to do in terms of test management, and the best way, of course, for you to learn all about Xray is by using it. And for that, we have a sandbox environment that you can try, or you can download the trial to your local Jira instance if you want. Finally, just to say that, as João was saying, we will reserve some amount of time in the end, so we are able to clarify at least some of your questions. If that's not enough, we'll contact you afterwards and try to answer all of you. So let's start, and just to show you briefly what is our agenda for today, I will start by explaining what are requirements in terms of Xray, how do you configure that, and I will then create a requirement, and from that requirement I will create multiple tests, and because Xray allows you to manage different types of tests. I will also create a precondition, which is like the initial conditions that should be met before executing the test. And then I will group all the tests in an entity that we call a test set. From there, we will create a test plan in order to keep track of our tests. And I will create multiple test executions and see how that will fit into the test plan. I will show you the difference between the execution of manual and automated tests. And I will go briefly through the project tabs to show you the kind of things that you can easily obtain in Xray. The last topics are related with reporting, and with Xray you can do reporting in several ways, and I will show you or at least talk to you about the different possibilities that you have for that. And I will show you how you can make reports using Xporter, which is our other add-on just for exporting Jira issues. Okay, great. So let's start by showing you the settings that Xray offers. You can see that now we are in the add-ons configuration inside the Jira administration page. You can see that Xray allows you to configure many settings, in fact. But I will just focus for now on the issue type mapping, which allows you to define which issue type should be considered as requirements. And this is configurable. Okay, you can just drag and drop the issue types to this column. And you can also define which issue types should be considered as defects. And this is important because, for example, for requirements, you can have your own issue types and make test coverage on that. So now that I have shown you what issue types should be considered requirements, you can see that we have here a story as a requirement issue type. I will start by going to my project, which is a dummy calculator project that I have, and I will start by creating a requirement that in this case will be a user story. So let's say that the first important requirement that my calculator should have is that it should be able to calculate the sum of two numbers. And let's say that this is for version 3.0 of the system, and it's also for the current sprint. Okay. Now let's go to our user story. And you can see now that the screen of our user story is enhanced with the specifics that Xray provides for test management. So you can see right away that we provide a custom field, which is the requirement status, that shows us that this user story, it's uncovered for version 3.0 of the system, because we haven't yet made any tests for it. So you can see right away the status of our requirement, and from the test coverage panel below, you can see all the related tests that are covering this user story. So if you want to create a test for this user story, you can just do it right from this button. You can also do another thing. For example, you can create a test execution, which in this case is a subtest execution, which is like a task that will contain all the tests that are covering this user story. If you want, you can also link this user story with other tests that you may have. Okay, so now that we have our user story created, let's start by creating the different type of tests that we have. And I will start by creating a manual test. So I can do it right from here or from the top menu option. But if I create it from here, it will automatically be linked with our user story. So let's do it. Let's create our manual test. You can see right away that Xray provides different issue types. So in fact, all the test management related entities are in fact Jira issue types. And this allows you to configure things like the workflows or the user screens, so you can even have your own custom fields to these entities. So the first main entity that we'll be using is the test entity. And the test entity, it basically is like a test template for our tests. Either if they are if they are manual or an automated test, it will be in fact a test. Then we can see that we have a test set, and the test set is like a group of tests, nothing more than that. But you can put your tests on different test sets and group the tests by something that makes some logic to use. For example, you can group tests by feature or by regression. So you can group tests in many different ways, in fact. Then you can see that we have also a precondition, and a precondition is like saying that before you start executing your tests, some initial conditions must be ensured. And you could, of course, write that same conditions, that initial conditions, as the first steps of the manual test, for example. But sometimes you may have to reuse the same preconditions between different tests. So for that, we created an abstraction of that initial conditions, and we have the precondition which implements that. And you can reuse then the precondition between different tests. Then we have a test execution, and the test execution is like a task for executing a bunch of tests. So each time you want to execute one test or a group of tests, you create a test execution, and for a given version of the system, you assign it to someone, and then the results, the test execution, will also contain the results of that task. And finally, we have the test plan, and the test plan is like allows you to group different test executions and to keep track of tests between different executions. So it contains the latest status of those tests for independently of the number of executions that you have. I will show you each one of these issue types, how to use them during our webinar, and I think it will be more clear to you as soon as I make the demo. So let's start by creating our manual test, and we can just fill out the summary. Of course, since this is a standard Jira issue type, you can change the priority, you can assign it to some component, you can have attachments, you can put labels on it, and that's the beauty of using Jira issue types to manage your all your test management entities. The important part here is that in the test details tab, you can see that we have a test type where we define which type of test we are in fact writing. So in this case, we can even we can have a manual or an automated test, and I will start by creating a manual test, which basically is composed of multiple steps. So I can fill the steps right from this creation dialog. Let me just fill some of them right now. You can see that we have the three columns that basically represent the action of the step, the expected result, and we have also one optional column, which is the data, which allows you to write some some input data for the step instead of writing it in the step column. So let's press 2, and when we press equal, we should have 3. Okay, we now have a bunch of steps, and from this creation dialog, we can edit the steps, we can reorder them, but of course this is not that much user-friendly. But when after we create the test itself, we go to the issue screen where we are able to do this with more options and in a more convenient way. You can see now that we have two tabs, and I will not go through them, but basically the test sets and the precondition tabs allows you to directly associate this test with an existing test set or some existing precondition. The important part here is association between the test and our user story. So I'll do Xray associates one to each other. Basically we implement a specific linking between the user story and the test, which is a test linking, and in this case, our test, it tests the user story that is specified here in this issue. In fact, a test can cover multiple requirements if you want. Okay, so let's create our manual test, and let's go to the screen of our test. Okay. Our test basically contains within the test details, it clearly identifies the type of test that we have, and we can now see that we have the multiple steps here, and we can reorder them, and we can do we can clone, we can remove the steps, we can add, for example, some attachment to a given step. Okay, let's upload it. If we want, we can import steps for example, from an existing CSV file or from a JSON file, or if you want, you can even write your steps in Excel. And sometimes some customers find that more convenient, and then you just copy paste them to Xray. Okay. One thing that you can do in the steps, you can use wiki markup in order to make your steps description more user-friendly. Okay, that's basically it. But now let's go a bit down on our page, and we can see the existing associations that we have with the preconditions right from the test screen, or the associations to existing test sets, or we can see also all our runs that we have for this test. So as soon as we start executing this test, we can see the results right here in this section. If you want, you can easily execute this test right away by this button, and we can create just a test execution for containing this specific test. So we call this like an ad hoc test execution because we are executing it outside of a test plan. And finally, we can see that how the association between the test and the user story is done, and this is done between using the issue link tests to our user story. Okay, let's come back to our user story now. And you can see now that our requirement status is showing that, in fact, our requirement now is being covered, but it's not run. Yeah, and it's not run because we have one test associated to it. We can see that in the test coverage panel. And we don't have an execution for it, so that's why the requirement is considered as not run for version 3.0. You can see also the status of the execution, the latest status of the execution of this test as to do. And if we want, we can evaluate it for some different version of the system. So if I don't specify here a version, it will give me the latest status of the executed test. Okay, so now that I've created our manual tests, let's create a precondition and associate it to our manual tests. So you don't have, in fact, to associate preconditions to tests, but sometimes you might find that useful because sometimes you have to do to ensure the same things between different tests. So let's create a precondition, and let's say that before I start doing my sum validation on the calculator, I must ensure that the calculator must be turned on. Okay. Now, what is important here is that my precondition type must be of the same type as my manual test that I'm going to link it. So, in fact, I can have preconditions for a cucumber test, and this will be automated preconditions. Then, in the conditions field, I can specify, this is an open text field, where basically I just define the things that must be ensured by this precondition. Turn on calculator. Then I can associate this precondition with the test that I have just created. So let's associate it, and now let's go to our precondition, and basically, the precondition details just show that the condition is in fact turn on the calculator. I can see all the tests that are linked to it in this section, and I can associate this same precondition to other tests that I may have. And now let's go back to our manual test. You can see that from the manual test side, I can see quite easily the preconditions that I have associated to it. In fact, I can have multiple preconditions, and I can change the order of them. So whenever I'm going to execute this test, the preconditions they will appear in the same order that I have here within this preconditions panel. Okay. Manual test done, precondition done. Now let's create the other different type of test that we have. And now we'll start by creating an automated cucumber test. So let me just fill out a different summary for it. And within the test detail, let's say that this is a cucumber test. In cucumber, you can have two different types. You can have a scenario or a scenario outline. So in this case, we'll be using a scenario outline, which basically is like exercising the same test with different input data multiple times. So let me just fill out with some data specification that I already have. And you can see that we do support syntax highlighting for Gherkin, which is the language that basically where you tells you how to specify the BDD that implements the specification of this test. So this is why given and when then they are highlighted. And now the association to the test. Once again, since I created from the user story, it's automatically linked. Okay. Okay, great. So this is basically it. So let me just go to the cucumber test and show you the syntax highlighted once again. So if I write a sentence in Gherkin, it's automatically detected, and you can see that it will show in blue. So now let's come back to our user story. I have two tests. Finally, let's create the last different type of test that we may have. The final test type that we may have is a generic test. So what is a generic test? A generic test is like having some automated test that it's not a cucumber test, so it might be some JUnit test, some Ruby script, or some shell script, wherever. But this allows you to create an entity in Jira where you can report results to. So sometimes you may have your own automated tests implemented in some language, and you want to report results of it to Jira. So for that, you need to create an entity, which would be a generic test, and report results to it. So you have a generic test definition field, where you can use it to complement the definition of the test. In this case, I can say it's like, I can use it to put like the class name and the class method that implements that automated test, or the name of the script, wherever. And then it's basically this. So if I go to my generic test, it will show you that there is the generic test. The definition has the definition field that I wrote moments ago, and you can see that it's once again it's linked to our user story. Okay. So now that I have created my different types of tests and my precondition, I will create a test set. So let's create a test set, which basically is like creating a group of tests that for all my arithmetic operations. So sometimes you want to group tests just to make it more easily for you to, whenever you are going to execute the tests, to pick them out without going individually through each one. So you can create as many test sets as you want, and you can put some label on it, so it makes it would be more easy for you to find them out in Jira. And sometimes you may want to have some tests more handy. So this is a way for you to organize tests in Jira. Okay, the test tab allows me to quickly have the tests that I want to make part of it. So we'll have the three different types that are test types that I have just created. So you can see they are basically the same that I have here. And let me just open the test set. You can see that the test set contains a list of tests. Okay, you can even reorder them if you want. From this test set, you can add more tests, and if you want, you can even create a test, and it will automatically be linked to this test set. Okay, now that I have created all my tests, how do I start executing my tests? So before executing my tests, I must create a plan in order to keep track of my tests, because I may, in fact, be executing my tests multiple times, and I might want to keep track just of a certain group of tests. And for that, I have the test plan entity. So let's say that I want to keep track of all my relevant tests, and I want to keep track of this on the version 3.0 of the system. It's important that I define here in the fixed version field the version where I want to track the tests on, because whenever I'm going to execute the tests, the test executions that I'm going to create, they will automatically inherit the fixed version from the test plan. Since this is a plan, of course, has like a begin and end date. So let's say that I want this plan to keep track of the test between today and next week. And then you can associate the tests that you want to keep track on the test plan. So you can pick individually the tests, or you can just pick a test set, and that will automatically import the tests that belong to this test set. Okay, you can see now that I have the test plan is in a standard Jira issue type, but it contains the information of the tests that we are tracking on it. So we can see that this test plan is composed of 3 tests, and the 3 tests are right below. And in the overall execution status, you can see right away which is the stages of the latest stages of the tests that are part of this test plan. So you can see that all my 3 tests that make part of it are still to be in to do, because we haven't executed any of them at least once. Below, you can see the tests. So you can see that we have the generic, the cucumber, and the manual tests. You can see the linked requirements. You can see the number of executions that we have for each one of the tests, and you can see the latest status of our individual tests. By clicking on this arrow, you can drill down on the test and see all the test executions that we have for it. Okay, so now that I have created my plan, and notice that I can in fact create multiple plans for a given version, but I could, for example, want to track them independently. So now that I have my test plan, how do I execute the tests? So I can execute the tests from this button, and it will create a test execution, for example, with containing all my tests that make part of the test plan. So let's do that now. And you can see that the test execution that I'm going to create, and once again, a test execution is like a task for executing a bunch of tests. It's automatically, the attribute of the fixed version is automatically filled out and with version 3.0, because we created a test plan for version 3.0. And one thing that we can see that we can also assign to a test execution would be the test environments. Test environments are a new feature of Xray 2.0. And although I'm not going to show you exactly that during our webinar, basically, just to give you a glimpse what it allows you to do, basically it allows you to execute the same tests on different environments. So imagine that we have these tests and you want to execute them both in Android and in iOS. Oh, of course, you could create different tests, one for some for Android and other ones for iOS, but that would be not very efficient. The best way would be to create different test executions and say that, okay, once these tests were executed on Android, and the other time they were executed on iOS, and the overall execution status for each one of the tests will have into account the latest status that you have for the different environments. So, for example, a test is considered to be passed only if it's passed on the different environments that you may have. And it is considered as failed if it fails at least on one of the environments where you have executions. Of course, you can either use this or not, and I will proceed without using it. So let's create our test execution containing all our three tests. Okay, you can see that now we are at the test execution issue screen, and you can see that this is a planned test execution because it's linked to our test plans through this custom field, which is a test plan custom field. And the execution, the test execution contains also information of overall execution status progress, which shows you in a very expedite way the results of the tests that make part of this test execution. So my execution is composed of 3 tests, and they are all the 3 they are all to be executed. So right below we can see the different tests that make part of this test execution. We can, of course, also reorder this by dragging, by moving the test within the test execution. We can see the number of requirements that each one of the tests are validated, and if I click on them in the number, I will go to the search issue screen containing the requirements. I can see also the assignee. Okay, one thing that is relevant here is since this is a standard Jira issue, you have a default assignee, which in this case would be me, which is the administrator, and the individual test run would be assigned to by default to the test execution assignee. But of course, you may want to reassign an individual run to a different user. So, for example, I could say that, okay, the generic test should be executed by Xray, for example. Okay. Okay. Now let's show you how to execute our tests. So I will start by the generic test in this case. So our generic test, our script that may be implemented somewhere else, we have executed. Let's imagine we executed it and validated that the script was passing. So we can execute it in line, and this will basically change the status to the given status. Of course, you could do this by using our REST API, so you don't have to execute this manually. But probably, at least in an initial phase, you may have your automated tests implemented and not integrated with Xray, so you can come here and just change it, the status of the test in line. Okay. Now let's go to our manual test and show how to go to execute it. So, of course, I can change the overall status of the test in line, but the normal way to execute our test would be to go through the individual steps that make part of it. So let's execute it. And from our execution screen, you can see that in the top we can see the test run result. So just to give you some important feedback is that Xray, whenever you create an execution of a test, the specification of the test is copied, and we create like an instance of the test. We call it a test run. So even if you change the specification of the test afterwards, this the specification of the test that will be available here, it won't be affected. So this is how we guarantee the consistency of your data. And here on the top, you can see that our test run is in to do. Of course, if you want, you can change the status of our test to one of the given status. And you can see also the version where this test is going to be executed. And here on the top section of our test run, you can leave global feedback to our test run. So I can leave a global comment on it. I can create a defect, and it will be associated globally to our run. And if I want, I could add some files as evidences, relevant evidence of our execution. Of course, the most common would be to leave feedback in the individual steps, whenever we are going to executing them individually. So below, in the execution details, you can see that the execution details shows you the linking to our user story, and you can also have access to the preconditions that are associated with in this case, with our manual test. Below, we can see the individual steps that implement this manual test, and they are identified by the number. In fact, you can even execute them out of order if you want, but the normal thing would be to execute the first step first and then the second one, so on. And each one of the steps is composed like the things that we consider as input data for the step. And you have access, for example, to the attachments of the step. You can see the description of the step and expect the result. Below, this row is like the outcomes of the step, the results. So if you want, you can leave a comment, you can create a defect, and if you want, you can, for example, add some evidences to the step itself. Then, in the right side, you can change the state of the step, and let's say that all our steps they pass. You can see that as soon as I change the step state, and the step color, it will automatically reflect the color of the step state. And you can see that on the top, the overall execution status for this test is now being changed to executing, since I'm in the middle of execution. So let's pass all our three first steps, and let's say that whenever we were executing our calculated test, it failed. So let's say that the final step it failed. We could leave here a comment, say that, okay, calculator crashed. Okay. If you want, you can add some attachment right here. Okay. And if you want, you can create a defect right from the step. If you create a defect right from here, it will automatically be linked with this test execution and our tests. So let's do it. Let's create a defect. You can also associate existing defects if you want. Okay, let's create a defect just to show you a nice feature of Xray. Let's say that the calculator crashed. You can see that the effects version is automatically filled out with the version where we are executing our test. And below, in the description field, it is automatically filled out with the steps until the step that fails. So let's just create the defect. Let me show our defect, which in this case will be a bug. You can see that the description contains the steps until the failing step. And below you can see that this defect is linked with our manual test and with our test execution. So even the behavior of filling out the description with all the steps until the failing step is configurable. Okay, so let's come back to our execution stream. And since we failed our step, we can see that on the top, now the execution status of our test is considered as failed. So if we come back to our test execution, we can see now that the test executions show us that one test is passing and the other one is failing, which is our manual test. Okay. Now finally let's execute our Cucumber test. How can we do it? First, since we made a specification of our automated test in Jira, we must extract that specification from Jira itself, so we are able to execute our automated test. We can do that using our REST API, or if you want, you can use it through the UI. I will do it through the UI just to show you how this can be done. Let's export this to Cucumber. And let me just copy this to a sample Cucumber project that I have. And let me show you briefly the specification and the generated feature file. You can see that the generated feature file contains the specification of our Cucumber scenario outline, and it also contains the summary of our user story. And you can see that both our scenario outline and our feature, they are tagged with the issue keys of the respective test and test set and our test execution, and even our user story key. So this is what allows us, whenever we are going to execute the test and whenever we obtain the report that Cucumber generates for us, is what allows us to make the linking between the results and the entities that we have inside Xray. So let's execute it. And for that, I would just execute the Cucumber command. Of course, I can pass some arguments to generate a JSON report. I have just a script that makes me that. We can see that now I have a JSON file, which I can then upload either by using our UI or by making a HTTP post request to our REST API. So let's do that. And if all works fine, if I refresh now my test execution, we should now be seeing that now I have two tests passing because our Cucumber test is passed. Okay, this is great. And I can now even go to the execution details of our automated tests. And below, I'm able to see the individual results for the different examples that were given in our Cucumber scenario outline. So I can see that our calculator, it worked fine for all the different examples. Okay. Okay, great. So now we have 2 tests passing, and we have 1 failing. So now let's come back to our test plan and see what it shows us. We can see that basically our test plan, since we have just a test execution, it shows you the same information that we have in the test execution, in fact. So here we can see that the latest status of the tests are passing, just except for my manual test, since the last execution that I have for it was a failure. So now that I have one test, in this case failing, how do I create another test execution that validates our failing tests? So I can easily create another test execution from within my test plan just for the tests that are on a given status or on a given set of status. So let's create a test execution just for the test that is failing. Okay, let's create it. Okay, now I'm in my test execution, and it contains just 1 test, which is the manual test. Okay, in this case, let's pass it in line without going through the individual steps, and let's come back to our test plan. Okay, our test plan now shows that all my 3 tests are passing. And why is that? This happens because our manual test has 2 executions, and although it failed on our first execution, our last execution has passed. So the latest status of this test is considered as being passed. Okay. This is the way that test plans make tracking a set of tests with multiple test executions more easily. Okay. Now that I've executed manual and automated tests, let's go to our project tabs to show you the kind of things that we can easily do in Xray. So within your project tabs, you can see that Xray provides several options, in fact, that allows you to quickly list all the tests that make part of your test repository, all the test sets, all the test executions, and all the test plans. And let's start with the tests. And this is this option basically shows you all the tests that are part of our project, and you can see quite easily the different tests that we have. We can filter them out, for example, by component. We can even analyze the status of this test for a given version. So, for example, I can analyze these tests for version 1.0 of the system, and this in fact what we'll take into account is the executions that we have for version 1.0, and it show you right away the status of each test for that version. The test sets tab shows you all the test sets all the groups of tests that you have, and once again, you can filter them out by component. If, for example, you created and assigned test set to a given component, which in this case, for example, we have some tests for UI or for the cores of the system. And if you want, you can even analyze also status of each group of tests, each test set for a given version. And what this does, it will take into account the executions that you have for all the tests that make part of the test set for the version that you specify in the analysis version. Okay, the test executions shows you the list of all the executions that you have for which version, and the versions of the systems where they were executing, the revision of the code that was exercised, and you can see also have a quick overview of the overall execution status of each individual test execution. You can also customize the layout of this screen. Okay, the test plans tab is in fact quite similar to the previous one. It shows you the list of all the plans that you have for all your versions of the system, and it gives you also a quick overview of each test plan. You are able to filter this out by a given version of the system or by some workflow status, for example. Now, for me, the most interesting tab for me is the requirement coverage tab. Why is that? Because Xray is obsessed with requirement coverage. So here in the requirement coverage tab, you can see quite easily the status of all your requirements. So in this case, I'm showing all my requirements that are part of the system. I can filter the requirements that are shown in my graph. And in this case, I'm grouping them by priority. I could, for example, group them by priority. And what this shows to me in a very efficient way is that, for example, I have 19 major requirements that are okay. And I have, for example, 17 requirements that are not okay for version 3.0 of the system. So I can analyze my requirements in for different versions. So I can get the same analysis being done, for example, for version 2.0 of the system, or for version 1.0. And what this does, it takes into account the test executions that we have for the given version that I specify in this option. I can even analyze the status of our requirements by a test plan. So, for example, if I select our test plan, I can see that all my requirements are being covered, and just one requirement is in fact being covered, and it's okay. This is because our test plan only contains tests that validate this specific requirement. If I click on each one of the bars, I'm able to quickly see the requirements that compose this bar chart. And I can see, for example, that for this specific requirement, I have 3 tests that are covering it, and all my 3 tests are passing. So the completion of the requirement is 100%. And let me just show you another type of chart, which is the daily history chart. Let's once again analyze this for version 3.0 of the system. And basically what this chart shows you is the evolution of your requirement coverage through time. So if all goes well, for example, here in the 15th of December, I have 17 requirements okay. And if all goes well, the green bar should go up through time, and in the end you should have like 100% of your requirements being okay. Okay, let's come back to our overall cover chart just to show you another nice feature. And I'm trying to be as fast as possible. Let's drill down on the major requirements that are failing. I have 17 of them. If I click on them, I can see them right away. And you can see that one of the requirements that is being considered is an epic. And this is basically because Xray has the notion of parent requirements and sub-requirements. So it even understands the notion of epics and user stories. So you can see that, for example, if you are covering the individual user stories, the status of the epic reflects itself, having in mind that. You can even define your custom relation between a parent requirement and a sub-requirement in the administration of Xray. Okay. Now let's go to briefly to our point 8 point, which would be the different possibilities that we have for making reports. So let me show you a dashboard that I have built already. And you can see that the charts that I was showing to you, containing the overall status of your requirements, they can be included as Jira gadgets in your own Jira dashboards. You can also see that, for example, you can easily make a list of your requirements containing the requirement status. And this makes, in fact, use of the filter results gadget that comes with Jira. And since Xray adds some custom fields for example, to your user stories, such as the requirement status, you can include them in the listing of issues. You can also make, for example, a report, a pie chart, by grouping all the tests by component, since the component is an attribute of the test itself. You can also make, for example, a pie chart containing that briefly shows you all the test runs that you have grouped by the status of it. Finally, even the test sets and the test executions and the tests, they have specific custom fields. For example, here the test set status is a custom field that we have to test sets that quickly allows you to have a glimpse of the tests that make part of this test set. And for example, you can have also a list of all your test executions and show the test execution status related with each one of the test execution. Okay, so let's go to our last point, which is will be the integration between Xporter and Xray. And for that, let me go once again to our requirement coverage panel, and let's choose some of the requirements here that are passing. Let's go to the Jira search screen with containing all these requirements. And how can we make, for example, requirement traceability matrix? So in Xporter, I can have I can build a template, a Word or an Excel template, and for that, Xporter has a built-in store with free templates that you can reuse, or you can even build your own. For example, you have a specific requirement traceability matrix report that you can use in order to build some nice Word document or PDF document containing your traceability matrix report. So let's come back to our selection of requirements, and let's make that. So from the export action, I can call Xporter. I would select the template by selecting the requirement traceability matrix and selecting the output as a Word document. And let's export that. And now Xporter has created for me a Word document. Okay, you can see the Word document, and it contains a list of requirements, the status of it, the link of tests, and the link of the effects. The beauty of using Xporter to make your own fully customized reports is that you can fully customize the layout of it. So, in fact, there are multiple reports that you can find in the template store, even for Excel, that allows you to obtain and group the test runs in different ways. Okay. Now, just for the last topic, I will pass the ball to João, and João will give you a glimpse of another thing that we have. Thank you all.
So another very important thing that we think that it's very important in case you want to automatize all this process of your test management is, of course, integration with any kind of continuous integration platform. So in our blog, we do have a tutorial that explains you exactly how you can integrate Xray with, for example, in this case Jenkins, but you do have also another example specifically with Bamboo. So this is something that it's also very important in terms that you want to integrate all this information. So what will happen is that you will run a job in Jenkins, then will collect the information that you have in Xray. It will execute afterwards a Cucumber, and then of course import back the results to Xray. So you can have all this process completely automatized. Of course, in this new documentation, you do have a lot of information, not just about the tool itself, but also all the new features in our REST API. So all that information that you can find here, you will have completely available how you can get all that information. And this is actually a brand new documentation. So we made it so that it will be way easier for you to go in and get the information out of it. So as fast as possible and more concrete as possible.
And the rest of it is built in.
Yes, also very important. That's good that you mentioned, Sergio, that the REST API is completely built in the add-on. So as soon as you buy the license, you will have also included the REST API completely free and included in the license, as I said. So in terms of the additional resources that you can find in our not just in our blog, but in our documentation and also in our website, all the information you will have it. Here, as I mentioned already, the documentation, you will have also our website with more information, not just about Xray, but also about Xporter. Also, very, very interesting is that our blog, we will try to populate it with some more information, not just about new features of both tools, but also of new articles with new situations, also some concrete examples that could be useful for you, some use cases as well, and that will be also something that will go on in the future. Of course, another situation will be our YouTube channel. We will not just update these 2 webinars that you've been doing during this month, but we'll have some other news there, not just about tutorials, but also some other curiosities that you can find there. So that is something that you should check out afterwards. And of course, in the end, even if you are not able to run and install Xray in your Jira, in your test Jira, because you don't have access to it or you have permissions to do so, you can use our sandbox. So in our sandbox you have you can use it. So it's our own sandbox Jira instance, and from there you can not just try out Xray but also Xporter and use it as much as you can. So no problems on that. And you will also have admin level, so you can, as Sergio mentioned in the beginning, you can configure your issue types and configure your requirements and your defects bugs. So everything can be configurable there. You will have all the permission to do so. So you'll have all that information. And also to end up, because it's been already quite long webinar, we do have some very short time for the Q&A session. We'll give you, 30 seconds for you to get on your questions, and we will try to answer them during this time period. If you're not able to write down your question, of course you can afterwards contact us, and we'll for sure be more than glad to help you out on those queries. So let's have 30 seconds to check out the questions. It's time for you to write them down.
Okay, so let's start with some of the questions. So, can the tests be reused? Example, functional tests for a project that are typically used as regression tests in future releases. Yes, tests can be reused. So, as I said initially, the tests are like, in fact, like the test template. So, whenever you create a test execution, an instance of the test is copied internally when we create a test run. So you can reuse the same test between different versions that you may want. And if you are going to do regression testing, for example, you can make a test set with all the tests that validate previous requirements. So that would be the best way to group things, to make a specific test sets that clearly identify the tests that should be considered as regression testing. So, can you demonstrate how to execute the same test for the same requirement for different versions? Well, that in fact, in order to do that, you can basically you can create a test execution. Just a second. You can create a test execution, for example, and say that it's for some other version of the system. So you can create the different test executions as you want, because you can execute them on different versions of the system. And for that, you just need to specify that in the fixed version of the test execution. And another question is, how is that displayed in the requirement status of the story? So the requirement status of the user story, it shows you, so this is a custom field, and the exact behavior of this field is configurable in Xray's administration. Basically, it shows you the status of this user story, for example, for the earliest and released version of the system. You cannot have different custom fields, one for showing this specific result for version 2.0 and for one other version. So, but you can customize the behavior of this specific field. So this is just an handy field to have you a quick way of finding out the status of your user story for the version that you are most probably working on. Can we have more columns in a test details section? So yes, in fact, in Xray administration, you can define layouts of many of the sections that we have. So just to show you in a few seconds, that we have a default columns layout, which basically allows you to customize the layout of some of the sections. For example, the tests that appear in the test set issues, for example, and this is like the default columns that show. But you can, in each one of the issue types, you can customize the columns that you want to appear. Okay. So I think for now we are at the end of time. But for the remaining questions, I will give you feedback by email.
Yeah, so it's really important because we are already running out of time. I also wanted to show you just my email, so you can for sure contact me in case you have any question. All the questions that are posted here, we will contact you afterwards, sending an email, replying them to you. So we have quite many questions at the moment, and we are not able to do it today. But we'll for sure contact you by email, so don't worry. So just post them here, and we'll contact you afterwards. Or you can for sure send me an email with your questions. Like I said, we will contact you afterwards with not just with we'll send you with the email, not just with the documentation that we share with you, also all the links that we shared in that previous slide, but we also share with you the recording, so you can just listen to it afterwards, and it can serve as some kind of information, not just for you, but also for your colleagues that will for sure are using or will use Xray in the future. Feel free to contact me. I will be more than glad to help you out. So thank you very much for your time here with us. It was really a pleasure. We hope that this was a really good session for you, that you learned some information that you didn't have at the moment about Xray. For us, it was really a huge pleasure. Thank you for your time, and have a great week. Happy testing. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.